I came home early for the holidays to surprise them, my wife and our teenage son, imagining the look on their faces when I walked through the front door unannounced, gifts in hand and snow still clinging to my coat, thinking it would be a moment of warmth and laughter, a family reunited after months of work away from home. Instead, I opened the door and froze, because sitting in the living room were not the decorations and family I expected, but her boss, our lawyers, and a thick stack of papers spread across the coffee table like a silent ambush waiting for my arrival, and for a moment, I thought I must have walked into the wrong house, because nothing about the scene in front of me made sense. Her boss's polished smile, the uneasy glances between the two lawyers, and my wife's nervous expression as she stood to greet me, her voice trembling slightly as she said, "You're early." Words that instantly told me everything I needed to know. The air felt heavy, the warmth I had imagined replaced by a chill that reached deep into my chest, and I looked at the documents on the table, the embossed letterheads, the multiple copies, and I realized that this wasn't a surprise meeting. It was an intervention of sorts, a carefully orchestrated plan to inform me that she was filing for divorce, not out of sudden impulse, but as part of a legal strategy they had clearly been planning for weeks, if not months. As the lawyers began to speak, their voices polite but impersonal, outlining terms, timelines, and financial arrangements, I could barely hear them over the dull roar of disbelief pounding in my ears, because it wasn't just the betrayal that hurt, it was the precision, the cold calculation, the way every detail seemed rehearsed and approved, leaving me to wonder how long this had been unfolding behind my back. I looked at her boss, his calm demeanor suggesting he had been advising her, perhaps even encouraging her through this process, and the realization that my personal life had been reduced to a business meeting conducted in my own home was almost surreal, a mixture of shock, grief, and a strange, rising resolve beginning to take shape beneath the pain. I didn't yell or argue, didn't make a scene, though every part of me wanted to, because I knew that anger would only give them the reaction they were prepared for, the scene they had already rehearsed, and so I simply sat down, folded my hands, and listened, waiting for the moment when their well-crafted confidence began to falter under the weight of my silence. When they finished their presentation of terms, I quietly asked if they were certain everything had been finalized, and when my wife nodded, her eyes avoiding mine, I reached into my briefcase, the one I had carried from the airport only an hour earlier, and pulled out a separate folder, one that immediately caught the attention of her boss and both lawyers, because it bore the company's letterhead, the same company where both my wife and her boss worked, and I slid it across the table without a word. The room went silent as they skimmed the contents, realizing that while they had been preparing their legal ambush, I had been finalizing a corporate audit, one that revealed her boss's misuse of funds and her own involvement, documented in detail, ready to be submitted to the board. Her face turned pale, her hands shaking as she realized the implications, and for the first time since I'd walked through the door, it was her turn to be speechless. I stood, taking my coat, the shock replaced by calm certainty, and said softly, "I didn't come home for a fight. I came home for the truth," before walking out, leaving them in stunned silence as the weight of their choices settled over the room like the snow falling quietly outside, knowing that sometimes the best revenge is not loud or dramatic, but quiet, decisive, and delivered with dignity.